Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right up there is John, our resident millennial. John, how are you doing this evening?
Fan fucking tastic. Actually, ecstatic, even, I would say.
Fan fucking ecstatic tastic?
That's right. Show enough.
That sounds like a lot. Sounds like you're
It's
in
a
a
lot
good
of
mood.
things. Yeah.
This
Quite.
your
Yes.
your isolation is not getting you down.
Well, I haven't been isolated today or yesterday,
Good,
so I had
good,
to work.
good job. Good job.
Yeah.
Hey, shout outs to Sully Blue first in the house tonight.
Who was
And
first?
Elephant Man dropped in. Just he's at work. Wanted to say hi. Good luck. Stay safe. Thank you, Elephant Man. I hope you're doing the same. Remember,
Hell yeah.
6 foot, 6 foot away from people. 6 foot.
Yes, absolutely.
So, folks, let's get this out of the way right now. If you are here and you haven't hit the like button, you should hit the like button. You
Yeah,
should.
the fuck.
It's not a big deal to do. You just do it.
Yeah.
It's you just
It's
got to
actually a
rip
huge
the
deal
band-aid
if you
off.
don't, though.
Right. It's a bigger deal if you don't. That one gets
That's
crazy.
right.
John, the
Yo.
there's let's get this
There's
out of the way.
stuff going on.
There's an announcement that needs to be made. John, can you make that
There
announcement? Talk a
is.
little bit about what's going on.
Yes. Friday, April 10th. This coming April 10th. Not next year, not the year after. This coming April 10th. Freedom Scoop is having a 12-hour live stream for charity, of course, which we will be a part of. Also, Matt Christensen has agreed to be a part of it as well. So that's going to be awesome. Um, yeah, we're going to be raising money for, I think we're going to be doing medical, like, service people, who are out there on the front lines getting super sick just to
Right.
make other people better. So we definitely want to help them out. They're out there actually on, fighting the good fight. So
Yep.
we're raising money for them. So we hope to see you all there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually really looking forward to it. Like that's not even a promotional thing. I really am. It's going to be
Yeah,
great.
I think it'll be good, and hopefully we can raise some good money. It's this idea that a lot of people might think, hey, they're going to get a stimulus check just like everybody else, but not. It's not about that. It's about you know they're sacrificing so much. They really are. There's
Yeah.
they know that this is a losing battle. They know that their hospital's going to get filled up and they're going to have long periods of time where people are waiting and getting other people sick, and they very well know that they are probably going to get sick themselves,
Oh yeah.
and there's going to be a casualty rate amongst those people as well, but they put themselves in that line of fire and try and help everybody out. So that's huge, and if that's who we're raising money for, I'm very excited about that as well.
Absolutely.
Um, I want to see, because when it's all said and done, John, I have reached that point. I say fuck it. We need to stop any of the shutdowns. We need to go back to business as usual because
Yeah.
it's too late. The shit has hit the fan. There were enough people that didn't give a shit about social distancing, that didn't give a shit about stopping traveling in planes and going to big public events and partying and doing whatever the case may be. I get it. Hey, free
Hmm.
country, we're free. Too many people. It is well and out of control. There is absolutely nothing you're going to do with a shutdown now, especially knowing that your shutdown is always going to involve essential businesses, essential
Yeah.
services. If as long as those are active as well, people are going to leave their house. They're going to go do
Yep.
things. You're going to create. You're not going to stop it. The best thing we can do now is focus on getting testing out there for everybody and find out who's got it so that we can immediately isolate those people. Then people would know that they need to isolate. Um,
Yeah.
you know, the other options aren't working, and I'm going to say this, John. It saddens me to say this. This is the cost of freedom. This is what
It
happens
is.
when you have
Yeah.
freedom in a country
Yeah.
where people want to get irate because the government tries to do the things that you won't do, tries to tell you and enforce some way for you to think about the people that you're around. It's not just about you getting sick. It's about where you're going to take that and spread it amongst the populace,
Hmm.
and too many people want to say in fucking I think it was Michigan, groups were getting together protesting lockdowns and shit, and I'm like, okay, so you're gathering in groups of people to protest your government, your state government trying to protect you,
Hmm.
protect the people around you. Okay, great. You don't want to be protected, but we need to protect the people that are around you because you don't give a shit if you're going to spread it, and it's fine. If that's the mindset, that's the mindset. But I mean, fuck. Fuck you people. Sometimes somebody's got to step in and take control of the situation, and this is the cost of freedom. That many people have to make sacrifices for other
Yeah.
people to have their liberty. I mean, there's people going to get this disease that didn't necessarily need to get it. It's going to spread further than it should have, had we been able to do something more. Had the populace behind more of a lockdown, more of a you know
Yeah.
self-control. More self-control is what it would have taken. It would have helped if we hadn't had so much panic in the beginning. Yes, there was a lot of panic created. Yes, there was a lot of misinformation. There was a lot of confusion with this thing
Mm.
as to how we should approach it. But now it's like, fuck it. Rip the fucking band aid off. Be done. Stop your shutdowns. Get everybody back to work. Let's just get this and let it run.
Yeah.
It's already going to do it.
Real quick though, Woodchuck says throw out an at everyone in your Discord and get any notifications from YouTube. I did actually twice let everyone know in Discord that we were going live. So I'm not sure if Woodchuck, if you're even in our Discord. If you're not, the link is down below in the description, so you can join right now. But yeah, I do it twice before every show, just in case something like that happens. The notifications don't go out.
Well, and Sully says, I think at this point the shutdowns are hurting worse than the actual
Yeah.
virus. For most, just let them get this and get antibodies for it, like the flu or many other diseases that go around. It says, okay, the government locks you down and says you stay away, but those who would have zero lingering issues now have to suffer. Either way, one side gets the bad end of the deal. And
Yeah.
and I can understand this, but here's the thing. You know, this is not the kind of situation where anybody can sit around and go, I'm above the sacrifices that need to be made. You know, I mean, when you look out there and you see your healthcare workers, when you see your elderly care providers, when you see gas stations and supermarkets still open to provide you with things, and these people are staying in these places working and saying, okay, we're making ourselves vulnerable to this.
Hmm.
you know Everybody's making sacrifices in all sorts of ways on this, and it's like you know even like Tom Hanks is back in LA now, and they're kind of getting out and doing it. It's like, do you that doesn't necessarily mean you won't catch it again, right? You got to be careful to a certain extent, but yeah, I mean, even if on the back end of it you come through it, you have it and you come through it, yeah, if you've got to sit down for a little bit, but it's like I said, it's not going to happen. We've proven that we cannot come together in something like this to make the necessary sacrifices for the betterment of everyone in the community. We're very much not community minded in this regard. This has proven it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean that's absolutely true for the most part. Obviously, there are, there's plenty of examples of people, giving some of their supplies to neighbors and helping each other out. There is a lot of that going on. You just don't hear too much about it, like especially from the media.
Right.
But it absolutely is happening.
Well, I saw my first public service announcement today that was specifically targeting younger Americans. And it was basically saying, look, yes, these are the two demographics that this is going to affect the worst. But understand, it's not it's not just you that get when you get it. You're passing it around. It has a 2-week incubation.
Hmm.
The virus is spreading, and that's what we're trying to control. Like actually trying to appeal to that mindset and tell people, look, I can do something if you're going to do it. But again, winds up being too late, in my opinion. We're past the point of no return on this. Um, you know, my wife was telling me about one of the towns in Italy. She said that they had a very specific way of responding, and what they did was they shut the town down, and they immediately tested everyone in the town and segregated everyone who was sick, and then everybody that was well isolated till they were sure they didn't have symptoms, and it ran its course through the sick people, and that town is not letting anybody else in, but they no longer have the coronavirus there supposedly. But they stopped it because they were able to do 100% testing and know exactly who to put inside and keep away. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But we don't have that. We don't have that in place. I mean, Jesus Christ, have you heard anything about a test other than I mean, if you're showing symptoms, you probably get a test, but I
Yeah.
mean, we're still at that point. It's like, yeah, we're done. Just let it. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So he says, well, then the necessary sacrifice is relative. I would rather go to work every day like I am still and risk catching it. I understand everyone feels differently, but my freedom to provide and go out. Yeah, it's a catch-22, and sad to say, but this is one of those situations where if if you agree with the mindset that you want to stop the spread as much as possible, then it's necessary to sacrifice some of your liberty to maintain the order that's necessary to keep that spread from happening. It is what it is. People get it. I saw an article that was trying to make the argument that it was against people's rights to be, stopping traffic coming into from other states because New York is all these flights leaving out of New York, and now everybody's starting to go, no, 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 we don't want your flights, right? But that's stepping on rights by saying you can't travel between states, and I'm like, what do you think, John? Does this not supersede your right to do that?
No, I mean, you absolutely have the right to travel from one state to another. It's absolutely inadvisable. You shouldn't be doing it right now. But
Wait, isn't
yeah,
it?
I mean, that's an absolute violation of your rights to stop you from traveling from one state to another.
Is it? But is it against? Is that still the same if a state locks itself down from travel into the state? Doesn't a state have the option to do that?
Um, Not technically. Not technically, they don't.
Really? Like in a
Yeah,
state of emergency or anything like that?
I don't know if there's like different laws if they declare a state of emergency.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that,
That would be
but
interesting to find out.
yeah.
Hey, I see Ron Helton coming at us from D Live. Hello, fellow lockdown
Yeah.
prisoners. He says they say that they will be rolling out some test kits that will take just a few minutes to get the results. That will change the game. Sure,
Yeah.
but we've been hearing lots of different. Again, everything is so conflicting about what is the right information and what's the wrong information. What's actually happening, and I don't think that we still, as of yet, are getting a clear picture on that. I often feel as confused as I'm sure we are about what information is coming from China.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's tons and tons of different conflicting, information,
And
and it's really not helping either. I think that's all that's doing is stoking more panic,
well,
which is really bad.
I have to ask you this, John.
Hmm.
There are acts that the president can take, um, that he could initiate a higher level of emergency and basically take control of the media. He could control what's being said about things, basically, so that it's that level of emergency where you only want one source of information about this issue, right? About this coming out. So only Washington would be providing information to us and telling us so that
Yeah,
we
that's a
had one source.
terrible idea.
Well, it's built. There's something that he can enact that will allow a certain level of that to happen.
He would
Um,
be very unwise to do so.
um, because
That's not a good idea.
I think where our media is at creates a level of obfuscation
Yeah.
in the media that is akin to the media control that China has. We just do it through freedom of press and the freedom to just write whatever the fuck you think you can't want.
Yeah, but I prefer that to state-controlled media.
Hmm. I understand that. So you don't agree that at any time we could reach a state, so say reach a state of war on our soil, actual war, not against a virus, but that the state should take control of the media and the propaganda that's being put out, etc.
Yeah,
Um,
no, they shouldn't. If they want to do something like that, they can have their own. Like they have their own media,
right.
basically. I mean, right? They have the press conferences and shit, and that goes out on like the on Twitter under the White House account. There's all kinds of government accounts on there too. I mean, they're on all the social media as well. So assuming the internet is still up, then you'll be able to access what the government is saying and not just the media.
Okay. Well,
Now if it's not there and all you have is like television, I mean, most people don't have, or I guess most people do probably still have cable or something, but you're assuming that all these things are still operating.
well,
So I mean, if they are, then yeah, the White House has their
well,
own way to
well.
put information out.
As long as there's internet, as long as we have power and internet, even in the case of an invasion on our soil, the media is still going to be running because all it takes is
Yeah,
a laptop and an upload,
right.
to post your next story. Um, so I guess that begs the question, and this virus is a good example. Um, when your media machine that's out there, the mainstream media, is so confusing and so conflicting to what the state is trying to say. And by state, of course, I mean the federal government or
Hmm.
even at the state level, because people are getting confusing information within their own states as well.
Right.
Speculative numbers and statistics and hyperbole and all of this. Um, at what point do you, as a government,
You still don't. I just gave you
you
the
do you
solution to
you
that.
don't ever want that. You don't. I'm not that solution exists right now, and people are
Yeah.
confused. Is my point. All of that exists right now, and people are confused about emergency situations. This one in particular, they have no idea, and then they don't trust. We can go back and look at the last couple of wars, as it were. We feel like we get so much misinformation from all the confusing media because there's fake news and there's not fake news, and then the administration calls different sources fake news, and one day they'll call something fake news, and then it's not fake news. All of this confusion is created by the mainstream media.
Right.
Are there ever going to be is there ever a situation that is dire enough that the mainstream media should not be gumming up the works so that people are
No.
getting the right information?
No, because even right now, the government can still put out their own stuff, and it's up to you to believe them or not. And the same with if the state controlled all the media, it'd still be up to you to believe them or not. Except for there wouldn't be any kind of narrative against it if they're bullshitting.
um, Sully Blue says we should let Chick-fil-A run the testing, and then everyone will be tested by lunchtime. And I agree, as does Ron Hell,
except
that that's a good idea.
except for a Sunday, they wouldn't be able to do it on Sundays.
Well, I mean, you don't. You don't go to the hospital. You don't. Sundays.
You don't go to the hospital
That's
on
a day
Sunday
for
either.
rest. You don't go for
Yeah.
hospitals. Sully says Ed covered it earlier, but a lot of big news is seeing record numbers since Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf. Yeah, are seeing are seeing record numbers. Um, yeah, I mean it's I don't know. It's I guess this is the authoritarian in me is like there's with a country this size and with the ability to misconstrue so much information. When we have a situation like the coronavirus running around and our government is saying, do these things, um,
Hmm.
and the populace isn't doing it because different avenues of mainstream media or not necessarily mainstream media, even new media like us, there are sources giving conflicting information. Um,
Yeah, of course.
so you know then you wind up running up against the wall of freedom, and then they're like, okay, I get to choose who I believe, so and act accordingly. um,
Hmm.
it's like how do you corral all those ducks when the shit is supremely hitting the fan? Like, what if this had a 100% fatality rate,
Yeah, then people would be freaking out even more.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and like the only real thing to do in a situation like that is what? 100% lockdown. Nobody move. Just fucking shut yourself up. And those that have it will die. They won't spread it. Everybody stay the fuck home. You don't need anything. Survive. Figure
Yeah.
it out. People that have it will die, but how many people would still go out?
Well, I mean, in that case, it would absolutely be martial law. I'm not saying I would agree with it. I'm just saying that would be the case.
So would you agree that that would be a time that would be a situation to enact martial law? Say if you were a leader.
I mean, yeah, I think it would be appropriate. I mean, obviously, again, I wouldn't agree with it, but I think that it would be. I mean, I wouldn't fault anyone for doing it.
Ah, so, and therein is the ultimate thing that I would love to point out, that you are even acceding to the fact that while you would not agree with the actions that are necessary for you to take, you would see the value in taking it, and probably do so. And that's what people need to take away from this. That's the mindset people need to understand. Does Trump want to be putting lockdowns in place and going through all this
Oh no,
bullshit? No, he
absolutely not.
does not. But he's got to make decisions that are not going to be popular, and then people need to make their own decisions that are not going to be popular with themselves and fucking do it. That's the only way any of this would have changed. And so hopefully hindsight will be 2020 and people will be like, okay, maybe next time, maybe we'll look at this a different way, you know. Um, but I can honestly say that as long as we have the media the way it is, um, this is going to happen every time, no matter what the situation is or even how much more dire it becomes. The media won't stop being this way, and that I think is a problem. Um, Not that I say we should control the media. I'm not saying no free press.
Right.
I'm just saying it's a problem. Helton says I don't have autocorrect, but the keys on this old laptop are not as reliable anymore. It's old age, Helton. I concur. Not that you said that, but you
Yeah.
know what I mean. You know what I mean. Sully says, well, Chick-fil-A actually went in on Sunday after the Pulse Club shooting here in Orlando to give food to the first responders and victims. I do remember that. I
Mm,
thought that was cool, and
that
it
is
is
cool of
very
them.
cool. Um,
Yeah.
as predictive typing, uh, whatever. Yeah, I don't like the
Yeah.
predictive
I
typing.
don't do any of that shit.
Have you ever done one of the little challenges where it's like it's type in a word and then hit the center suggestion from your
Yeah.
autofill for until you've created a sentence?
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, that makes some pretty
Yep.
interesting shit. He says if this was even a 50% mortality rate, that changes my idea. But I'm sorry, I think all this is blown way out of proportion. I truly believe the media played a big part in starting the chaos with it.
Yep.
With this, now I can agree with that to a certain extent, but I am going to say this: um, we have we I think we have to accept the fact that with the two groups of people, individuals, okay, the primary groups, infants and the elderly. Now, I get how most people feel about the elderly, but remember, as much as most people feel that, however they do about boomers and the elderly and the drain on the system, they don't think that way about the elderly people in their life, right?
Well, I
Um,
mean, also, no one either on this screen or in this chat has made that argument
no, no, no. But
about
that's
that.
you
No, I
know,
don't think any of us feel that way.
no, no. But there are people out there that are like that. It's like
Sure.
I remember when I was younger, I was like, why do we need people after a certain age? I bought into the whole Soylent Green mentality, Logan's Run mindset. But um, when it's all said and done, then you've got to factor in the fact that there's a third group, and that's people with underlying conditions that don't know they have underlying conditions, or people
Yeah.
that do know that they have them. That you so there's a wide spread of people that can actually be impacted by this. So when there is a mortality rate involved with it, it's one of those things that it's I don't I don't know I don't know how people don't we aren't at that place anymore. We're not anywhere near that place anymore in our society, and that's a little scary to me. You got to think about bringing kids up in that. I've got kids
Yeah.
coming up into that mindset, into that society. Um, you know, I know that we do the small things. You see it on the small scale. You still see community come together and do things like Chick-fil-A did with the Pulse shootings and things like that. Uh, but we've got a media that's going to, as Sully said, that starts so much chaos it got blown out of proportion. But you know,
Yeah.
we should have taken it seriously. You don't want it to spread. I mean, you've got to address that. Um, you know, how do you bring that to? I don't know how you bring that to the people without it getting blown out of proportion. Specifically in a country that is of a mindset to is there a boogaloo coming? That kind of
Hmm.
weird stuff going on. So people will go into a little bit of a crazy panic
Yeah.
no matter what you tell them, right? Or will they?
Yeah. No, I mean, pretty much.
But the only way to
Um,
the only way to do that is to control the media. Is that correct?
what do you mean? No, it's
Who,
not.
who? No, no, no. What I'm saying is the panic that was created in all this can easily be attributed to the mainstream media.
Yeah.
How do you
About it's about
prevent that with?
holding them accountable when they're doing things like that. I don't mean like government wise. I mean like the people wise. As in
Well,
like stop watching them, have their ratings sink even more.
yeah,
Now that could also have something to do with why they started doing that in the first place. Why they've been even more going into like fear mongering and things is it gets ratings,
well,
right? So maybe
isn't there a kind of a catch, a double-sided, a double-edged sword there? I mean, the moment Trump says this article by so and so was shit, what do people do? They go and read the article that he thought was shit, right? So, I mean, he helps drive the viewership for these shit articles that he calls fake news, in a way, So, I mean, you tell the American public not to do something, and they're typically going to go ahead and do it. You
yeah.
know, I mean, tell them to stay inside. They will, you got to use reverse psychology with them.
I was gonna say yeah. There you go. Just be like, hey, everyone, go out. Don't stay inside. Whatever you do, do not stay in your homes. And then everyone will be like, fuck you, I'm staying home all week. And then there you go.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, and yet. you never want to agree with my children and parents analogy, but that's exactly how you have to wind up dealing with kids, is
Yeah.
using that same reverse psychology on them. What you want them to do has to become not very important, and then suddenly it becomes more important to them. It's so fucking childlike.
Yeah.
Ed says he'll drive our viewership. Uh,
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
yeah, see, and I have to agree with Helton. He's talking about the mortality rate being, less than the flu or similar, but the lack of testing. This is a big one
Yeah.
for me. And again, I read the article that talked about the Alibaba, the CEO of that.
Hmm.
Where are all those tests? Where's all that stuff? Why is it that if we're only at a point that, you know, you have to be symptomatic to get have a test done, or,
I don't know.
I mean, it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Aren't we America? What?
Yeah.
Um, what do you think this is going to do for the Democratic position on healthcare in this country, and uh,
Oh God.
more
Yeah.
socialist programs?
So there's going to be two camps, right? There's going to be the camp that digs their heels in even further and say, look, this is why we need, Medicare for all. This is why we need socialized healthcare, to make sure that everyone gets treated, right? And then there's the other camp that are the intelligent Democrats, the ones who, maybe, they're not stupid, they're just misled.
Hmm.
Um, where they're finally going to realize that, just because you declare something a right doesn't make it immune from scarcity. You know, that just because you say something's a right doesn't mean that it's always going to be there, right?
Right.
So we start running out of ventilators, start running out of medicine, start running out of hospital rooms. It doesn't matter who's paying for it if you don't have the infrastructure there.
Right.
And with socialized medicine, we would have probably either run down hospitals, or some of them would just start closing after a while. I mean, we've seen that happen plenty of times. That's happening in the UK even before all this Corona stuff started going around. Their NHS, the National Healthcare Service, was failing. They were, instead of opening new hospitals, they were closing them down, and a lot of the ones that were there, not all of them, but a lot of them were run down and shabby. Didn't have enough, didn't have enough equipment or enough supplies. They were failing. So I think you're going to see a lot of people realize that as well. That it doesn't matter what's going on, scarcity is real.
Well, I would be curious to see. So, Canada is always the model I'm going to look at, because they're right next door. So I haven't looked. I need to look and see how their numbers have been going, how they're,
Oh, they've had almost no cases.
of what.
The coronavirus is like, it's almost ridiculous how much they don't have it. Like they do, but not in great numbers.
Okay.
Very very few.
Now, the argument could be made that, they have a countrywide, what is it, a single payer system there, right? Um,
Hmm.
you know, is that not something that fuels somebody like Bernie Sanders, or anyone else that's talking about, you know, free
Oh
health
yeah,
coverage
no.
for everyone?
Like I said, it'll increase the talking point for some people, right? But not for everyone. Um, when it comes to Canada, though, like we learned when we had Chen on, that it's not like a federal government, um, system. So basically, they just say each province has to guarantee
Right.
medical care, but it's up to each province to decide how to do that.
Right.
And so it's a little bit more localized, even though their provinces are much bigger than our states typically. Um, but so,
Now what?
To
Now
be honest, I don't know much more about it other than I know that they have long wait times for surgeries and things like that, which is very unfortunate. Um, it's apparently great for things like your everyday, just doctor's checkup.
right,
It's great for that, but
but
most everything else, it's really not.
well, I will make this argument. They One of the things that they say is the best preventative care that you can do is making sure that you're just going and getting regular checkups, because it's through regular checkups that you find things early.
Yeah,
Like
but
if
you
you're
would
going,
have to test specifically for this, though.
no, 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 no. Like here in America, if you go get a yearly physical at your doctor the way you're supposed to, especially for men, it used, between 40 and 50, you should be going every year and getting a
Hmm.
physical checked out. Um, so if you're going and doing that regularly, part of that is they do blood work. They run your blood work and they check for various things, so they can catch things earlier. And this is, the doctors have said this for a long time, that if you just go see your doctor regularly for checkups, these are the ways that we can be more preventative and catch things early enough to deal with them, as opposed to people who never go to the doctor because whether they just don't or they can't afford it, whatever the case may be. And then when they get sick, then you find out that there's some major shit wrong with them, right?
Yeah, and Sully Blue is making a good point there, where he says more people had free health care, more available care like Dems want. Our health industry would have been even more overwhelmed because people with even one symptom would go to the hospital. That's absolutely true as well.
Sure, sure. And people, I
People would
understand.
panic, in fact, and just go to the hospital. Like,
But
yeah.
just like the argument that you might make about the free market, if you make a major change to the tax system, this, that, and the other, or whatever, and the free market sorts itself out, that sorts itself out too. Once people, once you make a transition into that system, sure, there's going to be a big glut in the a big hit to the health industry from people going to doctors and getting shit taken care of, but it will even out once you know you don't
Maybe, except
if
for
you
when those people go in there to get tested and they get sick because they're in there with people who actually haven't.
well, if you're talking about something like this, yeah, but you know
Yeah.
I mean, when it's all said and done, it's you know I don't know that I can agree with the argument that it's a human right to have health care, because really it's it's about self-preservation is what that's about, right? That's what it all boils down to. But I don't know, man. This is gonna give a lot of fuel to a lot of voices that
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew Yang, like I've said before, that motherfucker's kicking himself. He's like, see, you need to give people fucking money.
uh,
uh, but no, I will agree that it would be a tough transition to do something like that. I think, to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with private health care and Medicare for all existing side by side, because there's plenty of people in America that would prefer to have private insurance because they'll expect they'll get better medical
right.
coverage that way. There are going to be plenty of people that will work in the Medicare for all health industry that are good doctors, just like there's good teachers that work in an underpaid, underappreciated industry and are great teachers. They still do what they love. Um, I think they can coexist, and that's what I want. That's what I'd love to see somebody really put forward, to where it's we don't have these arguments about, oh, people have to give up their insurance. No, don't. Just let them do their
I
own
think I
fucking
think
thing.
I think a few of the Democrats were making that before they started dropping out.
And that's that's the middle ground you have to have in this country with people. That's really all there is to it. There are going to be, don't get me wrong. I mean, let me, look at it this way. If you if you knew that you could go ahead and just have insurance, and you had seen enough experiences with other people, um, having some of that free health care, that it was good and it was more than sufficient, would you consider dropping your paid health care through work?
Well, I mean, no, because all my money's going to be going to taxes at that point. Now, if I had the option to opt out of paying taxes and also agree to not use those services, then that would be fine.
I could see that. But
Yeah.
what? So let me
If
double
you
back.
offer it to taxpayers only and allow people to opt out of paying taxes, then that's a fair deal.
Sully says, wait, hold on. Oh, Wyatt's in here. Yo, Wyatt. Uh,
Yo.
he agrees it's a lot of fuel to the Bernie brothers.
Well, so hang on 1 second though. I want to address what Ron Helton said a little bit earlier, where he said they would all be dying just like those in the socialist healthcare system of Italy. While I would normally agree with things that you say, Ron, that's actually not accurate there. It's not because of the healthcare system that they're dying. It's because Italy has, I believe, the second highest population of elderly, and the elderly are much more affected by it. And not only that, but I think it's like 4 generations of like basically family members all living under one roof. So you got uh, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. Um, so it spreads a lot easier and it's much more potent, especially to the elderly that live there. So that's the main reason why Italy is so affected by it.
Right, and that's
It's
one.
not as much. It's not as much to do with the healthcare system. Again, while I don't agree with that system of healthcare, that I you can't put the blame on it for that.
Right, and that
And
was
hey, your license here. What's up?
that's been
You're
an
brand new.
that's been a minor argument as to why they went for a lockdown as quickly as they did. Because as a country, you've got to be aware of your population, right? And they know how many older people they have there, so they initiated a quick lockdown. And I, to be honest
Yeah,
with you, I don't think it was as bad for them because they again, it's not in America. It's not a country that's so used to a long memory of no authoritarians over them. They've had some
yeah,
you know
yeah. Yeah, they're used to being oppressed. They're
they've
used
had
to that
they've
boot being on their
they've had
neck.
some thumbs on them.
Yeah,
Ed says, Ron, that's because Sully says, unpopular opinion because it takes life dedication to become a doctor, but I also see a morale problem making 200K or more a year in a field to help people make a good living. It's not an easy job. No, I agree. It's not a good job, but I don't know. I think back to, I keep thinking about Canada. I've seen so many different things. Like you have people that say that they would rather come to America and have get their health care. But I remember reading an article where the government was trying to give they were going to give the doctors in one of the territories. They were going to give the doctors a raise there, and this news article did an interview with one of the doctors there, and he's like, "It's kind of a pointless raise. We don't really need the money. Like we're making more than enough money. I as a doctor, I'm making good money and I live well. I don't need a raise, it's so I don't know how where the money's coming from, how they're footing the bill for it, that kind of thing. But and then you have other people that swear by the system up there. Never had an issue, never a long wait, never failed to get adequate care. It's one of those things where there's so many different sources of information and conflicting stories that it's like, okay, well, how good
yeah,
is a system like that? You know, Shit, they have fucking yearly celebrate, like different places celebrate the healthcare system, like they have a physical celebration for the healthcare system. I saw this on
Oh my
something,
god.
and it's like, wow. John Oliver, I think, because I watch all those
Oh
stupid pundits.
god.
I watch them all. I just
I
watch
know
them
you
all
do.
because I like the lulls. Um,
So I guess if you find it funny, more power to you then.
No, I love to get a good laugh out of him because I just like Jon Stewart and just like Stephen Colbert and Bill Maher, I understand that they all come from a very specific place in their mindset. Um, you know, I get it. They have their own ideologies, but that doesn't mean that the people that they talk to and the things that they talk about, I'm not interested in hearing about.
Yeah.
I like to think that I can tell when like when you're making cracking a joke, that's probably you putting a spin on things. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's often times where I'm like, well, I don't necessarily agree that's as bad as you're making it out to be. But like Bill Maher, for instance, he has a lot of good guests on there that have,
Sure.
that you would not normally hear from. It's I you know and he doesn't just pander to his base in his guest selection. I mean, he has people that he's contentious with. I've watched him get into some kind of heated discussions and some, you know, you just got to shut the fuck up. I've watched him tell someone you just got to shut the fuck up with that because it's not true. You can I like that,
Yeah.
so it's not always great, relevant, but it keeps me from getting sucked into stupid shit like, well, this desire. I don't have a desire, but I feel like I need to watch things like Ben Shapiro and Alex
Mm.
Jones and all this shit, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch that because that's just the edge of crazy, right? That I don't want to flirt with.
Well, Alex Jones is fun though. I mean,
Um,
he's just fun. He's entertaining to watch.
You know, here's what I have. I was going to say. Sully says that it's the whole field equipment, and it's the whole field equipment can be expensive. But I haven't seen a pharmaceutical company or healthcare engineering company work for a little profit. They're all raking in money. This is a very important thing that he's talking about. With everybody that makes profits in our healthcare system, um, um, is you know, this is where capital. Okay, I would say that the healthcare industry, when we talk about big farm, when we talk about big insurance, that falls under capitalism, right? Right? We can just every
What does just
like
big
the,
pharma? I
like big
mean,
farm, the business that they're in, everything that they do is motivated by capitalism, is geared towards capitalism, right? Making medicine, selling it for as
right?
high a price as possible. This is the kind of that's one of those industries that really makes a good argument about how good capitalism is for people, because when you look at the healthcare industry, it is not about the consumer. Consumers have no control over pricing, um, you know, because it's a
See,
it's a captive audience demand such a scenario.
when it comes to medicine, you're more correct than you would be about most other fields.
Right.
But most other fields, no, the consumer has all the power. They just
To
don't believe that they do.
to a certain extent. Now I could make this argument. So I could make an argument about how capitalism um, has more control over itself than the consumer when we talk about, say, even the grocery store. And whether it's not necessarily about who's producing the food, it's about who's selling the food and how they manipulate the consumer to get the consumer to spend money. And
Right,
it's
because again, the consumer doesn't believe that they have the power when really they do.
Well, if so, for
I
instance,
mean,
if you
so
have three different grocery stores that you can go shop at, and all three grocery stores employ the same deceptive BOGO sale, right? Because if
mhm.
all of those are deceptive in what they're doing. But if they're all three doing it, aren't you kind of locked in? You don't really have much choice to go to the grocery store if those are the only three and they're all doing the same deceptive marketing.
I mean, yeah, but they're not going to be for the most part. Or if they do, they're going to try and undercut each other.
Sure.
That's the point of competition.
Sure, and I can get that to a certain extent, but I look at something like Walmart, for instance. There, how long have we seen advertisements for Walmart with their rollback prices, and we'll beat anybody else's prices. And video games are the perfect one for me because I've always laughed at this. Video game will be $59.99. That's what it comes out for retail. Walmart has it for
Mhm.
$59.97. They are the low price leader because they're beating their competition out by 2 cents.
Right,
They tell
right.
you, "Oh, come on, come on," and you go in and you're like, "You're saving me 2 cents." So, oh, you weren't lying, but good God, really, really, really,
Yeah.
and but all of the different sales. I saw a billboard the other day, and it was from a cab.
Mm.
It was from a cabinet making company, and they said that we're slashing prices by 50%. A $6,000 job will only cost you $3,000. And this is one of the biggest consumer tricks
Hmm.
that drives me crazy, because if you're doing it for $3,000, I can promise you, I know you're not doing it for no profit. You're still making
Right.
a profit.
Of
So
course.
so now what you're telling me as a smart consumer is that your cabinetry can be done, and can be done for $3,000, and you'll make a profit. Yet you are charging double that normal price? You sons of bitches. So how are you
Yeah.
not gouging me as a consumer every time you do it? You know? Um, I
Right,
love
but there are idiots, and that's the thing is it's up to you to not be an idiot.
I
That's the
guess
issue, right?
right, that almost I would agree that that's part of the issue. Again, I will say that it is so widespread throughout the industry. And I watch it in everywhere. I see it everywhere, from convenience stores to grocery stores to department stores. You know, if they're going to have a sale, if they're going to have a 20% off sale, well, they take the prices back up closer to the suggested retail versus the retail that they've normally been selling it for. So they take it back up, they might kick it back up 20% and then run a 10 or 15% sale, and they really,
Yeah.
but the consumer doesn't realize all of this is going on. It's
Yep.
become so easy to change price tags and, this, that, and the other. And it's like, psh, to me, capitalism controls the consumers more so than the consumers control capitalism in many ways. And that's why I hate going shopping anymore. I hate it. Uh, but anyway, chat. What did you say in the chat?
They've been saying all kinds of shit.
Yeah, well, shut me up and read. Uh, so let's go back. Ron says, no, I don't believe the services of another are right, and neither does Ed. He is just trolling. Okay, they're talking about Ed because Ed.
Yeah,
What did
it's
Ed
in
do?
there
He
trolling.
stuck his name in and then ran away. Sully agrees with Wyatt. One answer will almost never be the correct or most beneficial for every person. That's the sacrifice in communities and people coming under a
Yep.
rule of one land. Uh, Talking to Ron. Uh, Wyatt says healthcare is unfixable. Unfixable.
Yeah, I don't think that's true either.
Do you think it needs fixing, John?
Yeah, of course.
Now, from a libertarian standpoint, um, would it be wrong for the and I understand fully that this would probably require an amendment to the Constitution, but would it be out of line for the federal government to do something similar to what Canada has said and said, okay, as states, you must provide health care for your constituents, whether it be
No.
a multi-payer system like the Obamacare, or whether it be a free health care. You can decide as a state how you want to do it. You can either offer it free
No.
and figure out how to fund it, or you can offer it as people can come in and pay at a marketplace like the Obamacare had, but you do it as a state and you govern your own insurance within your state. Is that
No. What we have already is we already have, I think, two states that do it on their own. That's going to be Washington State, and I believe Oregon does. I'm not 100% on that though, but I know for a fact that Washington State does. And I mean, it's not working out well for them, but they have every right to do that as a state if they want to. but the federal government cannot mandate that to them, and it should not mandate that to all the states. If states, state by state, want to make a system like that, that's 100% okay. But not for the federal government to mandate it.
Because that to me would be the only way that you could get much more mass approval for deregulating insurance from the federal level. Healthcare and insurance is if they put a provider out there. Okay, as states, you have to make sure that healthcare is provided for all your citizens in one way, shape, or another. Um, and then we don't regulate it anymore. It can be handled at the state level. I mean, that to me
No, I
seems like
wouldn't.
the only way you could get most of America behind the federal government not regulating it anymore.
Yeah, but that's still regulating. It's still telling the states
Well,
that they have to do
sh-
that.
sure, but as I said, if we look at Canada as a model, we look and see, okay, does this work, and or is it have a negative impact? Otherwise we continue to do what we're doing, which just drives costs up. It's insane. But Also, Sully says, yeah, I think the system can only ever be set in the right direction by completely redesigning how it works, which will never happen. Healthcare could return to a productive state in about 5 years if the government would just stop meddling and stop subsidizing. Of course, we keep running into these situations where somehow the government's got to bail somebody out, and somebody got to give folks money, got to give some. Well, how do we get in this position? But how do we get out of it? How do we get out of this point where we've got to hand everybody money? You know, it's an ongoing problem.
Yeah, you weed them out. You weed them off of it. Just
Um,
give them less every year until you're not giving them any more.
Sully says they'll never do that because those medical companies pay to lobbying government to keep the scales uneven so they can make their
Yeah.
money. Yeah, and it's a highly corrupted system, and a lot of the blame can be laid on both sides of it, whether it be the corporations or whether it be government and
Hmm.
lobbying and their own need for power. I don't give a fuck if you're Republican or Democrat. People have gained power off of bullshit to do with
Oh
the
yeah.
health industry. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's going to take something drastic's got to happen. And Obamacare gets to be the guide that we look at for this because um, you know ultimately what happened was for years and years people were saying something needs to happen with healthcare, something needs to happen with healthcare, something needs to happen. Decades.
Oh
Obama
well, yeah.
Obama stepped up and said, "I'm going to do something about it," and he did. Whether
And it
for good or
sucked
bad,
dick.
he did something.
Yeah.
But he made a drastic move. He did
Yeah.
something, right? And and people overlook that one simple thing. You don't have to like what he put forward, but at least he did. It
Yeah.
wasn't just mamby-pamby bullshit here, bullshit there, little tweaks to the system here and there, a little more regulation, a little less regulation, tax breaks. It was a fully put together plan that had problems, got it, but it was something. So
Oh, it
it's
was
not
something.
it's not going to be the popular decision, but guess what? Shit gets to a point where a decision has to be made and action has to be taken. People need to get the fuck over themselves and realize that they live in a country with a whole shitload of other people and just fucking deal with it. Shit's going to change sometimes and you're not always going to like it.
Well, that's absolutely true. But yeah, it is about that time though.
I say we get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I gotta go. Hey, if you people have been in this chat this long, which is awesome, and I gotta say, I love it.
Yes.
I appreciate it. I love seeing you guys
You
out
guys
here
are
and
awesome.
talking. Um, if you haven't hit the like button, I I'm not going to dislike you anymore, but I am going to lose just a hair's breadth of respect for you, but easily gained back by your clicking of the like.
Tell you what, if you don't hit like right now, and you haven't already, someone is going to cough in your coffee tomorrow.
John, that's horrible. That's like a,
I don't make the rules.
you
I'm
should
just
be
informing you of
you should
them.
be careful because that could be misconstrued as a threat. I would
That's not a threat. That's what's
in
going to
this
happen.
in this day and
Someone, and I'm not
age.
saying me. I'm not saying me.
That's where you got
Someone
to
is
get
going to
some.
cough into your coffee.
You got to get clarification before
Yeah,
you.
not me. I'm not. What am I going to go to everyone's house who did? Well,
You're like
fuck
that. You're
no.
like that
Right?
old gypsy woman, Stephen King. Thinner.
Yeah.
All right, John. Real quick, and let's see how much brevity you've got. Can you give them a rundown of what's coming up in a little over 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks?
Friday, April 10th, charity stream. Be there. It'll be fun. Matt Christensen.
All
Is that
right,
brief enough?
close. We also want to make sure that it's being shared out there. So watch
Yes.
our sources of information, John, which they can find where.
All in the description. Is that brief?
Oh, now you're just going to be smartass about it.
No, okay, yeah. Twitter's down there at the Gen Gap P. Our Discord server's there, so if you're not there already, get your ass in there. It's a lot of fun. Um, we also have freedomscoop.com, who's going to be all of our Freedom Scoop guys are going to be doing that charity stream on April 10th. So make sure you're there. Make sure you check out the site too. You'll find other cool creators like Jay Edgar and Stephen Ignoramus and Wyatt from Roundtable Decision. You'll find RRC over there, R-rated conservative. He's over there now. So make sure you go and check them out over there. And while you're there, you can buy our merch if you haven't already. We have shirts, we have mugs, and we also have a promo code, GenGap, where if you put that in at checkout, you will get 15% off your purchase. Which is pretty fucking awesome, in my opinion, at least.
John, they,
I know.
I'm reading all this, and they just they won't. Ron Helton won't leave me alone about the smoking.
I know. I was
I get
watching
it.
it.
I get it. I understand. But I will say this: a vape won't do it. Those things choke me up so bad, it's not even funny. I can't. 15 different brands I've tried, and they all do the same thing. I feel like I'm drowning when I'm vaping on those stupid things. John can keep them. All right, so we're going to get the hell out of here. Remember, we will be
Yes.
back this coming Friday. We'll be here at 8:30 p.m. Live and hopefully alive. So, live and alive are the key
Yeah.
things. We hopefully won't get bogged down in too much of the mire. Other than that, we'll also be back next Monday at 9:30 Eastern Time for another
That's
rousing
right.
episode of Shooting the Shit. And outside of that, watch for those sources of information. Watch for us to make announcements on Twitter and in Discord about this upcoming charity stream, because we would love it if you can help us get the word out through your own social media channels. Just to let's see how much money we can draw together, and in these
Hell
trying
yeah.
times when you got nothing better to do with it. What are you going to do? Go out to dinner?
Right. What else are
No,
you doing?
no, right. All right. So
Yeah.
anyway, love you all very much, and I mean that from the bottom of my ice cold heart. Thanks for stopping by and chatting with us tonight. We're going to get the hell out of here. Until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, keep 6 foot away from one another, and if you see anyone that looks like John, just fucking run. Peace out,
Probably a
everybody.
good idea. See you guys.
The war will begin.